Hey, the Big Ten schedule, I got it right here. It's pretty thick, yeah, but I got it right here. We tried as a staff to go 5 different games and not mention the same team twice, and we could not in good conscience do it. I have Floyd of Rosedale sitting right here on the set. We could not in good conscience throw Iowa, Minnesota in here as one of the must-see games, one of the circle games in the Big Ten. So it just turns out there's going to be a lot of Ohio State in this. But that's not where I'm starting because I want to go chronologically. Oregon at USC in Week 4 is the first game that I've circled in the Big Ten. This is not just a big test for USC, although it is that. Oregon's won 8 of the last 10 in this rivalry. Oregon has won 4 straight in this rivalry. So, yes, there's the whole, can Lincoln Riley get over the hump? Are they right that they've got a top 10 or a playoff caliber roster at USC? Yeah, everybody knows those questions are going to get asked. But let me kick you a scenario right quick. What was the last thing that we saw from Oregon? We saw Oregon get blasted by Indiana, right? And then the year before that, the last thing we saw is Oregon got blasted by Ohio State. So the feel with Oregon football has been, well, okay, they can get through the regular season, but man, then once they get to the playoffs, they go up against better teams and they're no match. Hey, what if they lose this game? What if all of a sudden it becomes, wow, we can't win those games at the end of the year, and now as USC pulled even alongside us? That's how the talk happens. That's how it happens. This is the beginning of a crucial stretch for USC. I don't need to explain to you how big the hype machine would be if USC won this game, but they got Oregon, then they got Washington, then they got at Penn State, back to back to back. Crucial stretch. Speaking of that game, my next game is October 10th. It's USC at Penn State. Now, at this point, either USC is surging and they're coming off a win against Oregon and hopefully not a huge letdown spot against Washington. And if that's the case, they're 6-0 going into Penn State. If there's any justice in this world, USC at Penn State will be the whiteout. Again, if there's any justice in this world, all fingers crossed. Remember, there were big staff moves that directly are tied to this game. Danton Lynn, who was the defensive coordinator at USC, is no longer the defensive coordinator at USC, and I'm going to tell you why. He hopped a flight to State College, Pennsylvania to go work for Matt Campbell, and wouldn't you know it, he gets to face his old team here. This game happened a couple of years ago. Do you remember it? You remember that one Saturday where so many big games happened? Jesse, check me. I think that was the same day that Ohio State played at Oregon. So we had, on the same day, Ohio State at Oregon was a classic game. That was the Ole Miss LSU game that was a classic game. That same day, remember, Penn State went to USC and played a 5-Chalai Classic. We've only given out a few 5-Chalai Classic awards on this show in the history of the show because we've only done it for 3 years. That was a 5-Chalai Classic. 33-30, I think, was the final score. Awesome game. We can only hope that we get shades of that this year. Let's go to Week 7. Very next week. Hey, do me one favor right here. Look down. Are you subscribed to the channel? If you are, thank you. If you're not, please click subscribe. It helps us keep the show free and free of corporate interference. All right, that's it for me. Back to the clip. Ohio State at Indiana. This has got to be the biggest home game in Indiana history. And I don't even know what the records are going to be at this point, but it's got to be. It could be the best 2 teams in the country. It's the best 2 teams, it's the teams with the best 2 odds to win the Big Ten right now. It's Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, Michigan, USC in that order. Indiana figures to be a double-digit favorite in every game up to this point. And if you don't believe me, just listen to this. North Texas, Howard, Western Kentucky, Northwestern, at Rutgers, at Nebraska. If there is one game there where they may not be a double-digit favorite, it would have to be at Nebraska, I would think. So we get to finally see Indiana October 17th, and we get to test that transfer portal class because they lose a lot. They lose a couple of tailbacks. They lose a couple of wide receivers, a ton off that defense. Oh, by the way, the Heisman Trophy quarterback is gone. And, you know, there's a lot of theory, justifiably, that this is a culture that's just going to reload instead of rebuild. Maybe they will. This is where we start to find it out. Say the same thing about Ohio State, by the way. They've just kind of proven it over a longer span of time. But if you still believe in recruiting data, if you look at the on-3 numbers, you look at the rivals numbers, rather, for the historic last few years recruiting base that is baked into these rosters, the paper here, I don't know how much value it has, but the paper here says Ohio State's roster, from a recruiting standpoint, should have a pretty decided advantage. Then again, it said that last year too, and they still lost the game. So get used to Ohio State for a second, because then 3 weeks later, it's Oregon at Ohio State. I didn't say there weren't a bunch of big games in the Big Ten. I just told you they all involve pretty much the same teams. This feels like a rivalry. Ohio State-Oregon has quickly just adopted rivalry status in my mind. Dan Lanning's the new Ryan Day. It has dawned on me. Dan Lanning's the new Ryan Day. By that I mean Kirby was the guy who couldn't win the big one, then he won the big one. Then it became Ryan Day who couldn't win the big one, then he won the big one. And now they said it about James Franklin, but he got fired. And so they're not throwing that his way right now. So it's Dan Lanning who's stuck with it until Dan Lanning wins the big one, which is just code for national title. Until Dan Lanning wins a national title, that's going to be the talk around him. And it'll be the talk around this game. And we get to see Dante Moore versus Julian Sayin. But more importantly, we get to see Ohio State's offensive line against Oregon's defensive line. And friends, what we may be looking at there is the number one position groups, respectively, both sides of the ball in the country that afternoon. I was about to move on, Bradley, but that video is pretty incredible. So I'm just going to slow down and let it roll for a second. It's really good B-roll. Yeah. All right, now let's move on. If you're listening on podcasts, look, I apologize. It's just some really incredible B-roll. I don't know what to tell you. Michigan, Ohio State, of course, concludes this. Week 13. Kyle Whittingham's kind of in, I would just call it house money mode, year one. And he's going to go in there with a full season at that point under his belt, as is our picture at the quarterback position. So Bryce Underwood will have basically completed his second year by that point. Now, I know if I asked you right now, going into the year, if they played week one, who's got the edge at quarterback between these two teams? You would say Ohio State. You would say Julian Sayin. My question is, will we still be with that mentality come season's end? Who has the quarterback edge? Also, it is this period right now where Ohio State just ended that streak that Michigan had started. Well, we get to find out, was that a blip on the radar screen, or was that the beginning of a new streak? You never know when you're at the beginning of a streak. I didn't know we were at the beginning of one in, 2021 or 22 with Michigan, but we were. So those are some games I have circled in the Big Ten.